Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Bible Bits. Today we're getting to the very end of Genesis chapter 1. And this is a very interesting section of Scripture. Up until this point, God has been creating the earth, going through the days, and we see various aspects of God in the creative acts. But here we see something very interesting, starting in verse 26 when God begins to make man. Um, in many of the ancient creation myths, man himself was not uh, unique in his creation. Man was typically a created being. That itself is not unique to Genesis. But man's position when he was created was almost universally as either a slave for the gods, a servant for the gods, or just kind of there, like just kind of a happenstance. Man just kind of came along like all the other creatures of the world, not particularly important. And even later into history, when more advanced religions came along, like the Greek and Roman religions, even there, mankind in their creation is not special. They're still in this very subservient class, this very low order of things. But here in Genesis 1, when we get to day 6, we notice a very interesting change to the narrative. Up until now, the days of the first day, the second day, the third day, the fourth day, all of them are kind of generalized. The sea is made, the land and the mountains. It's all encompassing. There's just, there's no, make cattle and make cows and bulls and horses and snakes. There's no specificity to all the other creative acts. The fish aren't named. The birds of the air aren't named. But when we get to man, the narrative draws in and focuses on man because God does something that is so incredibly different in Genesis 1 from the other religions. Here in Genesis 1, man is not made to be a slave of God. Man is not made to be the servant of God. Man is made to be the image of God. In the Babylonian myths that were probably the most prominent myths that Israel dealt with back in the day, they perhaps dealt also with the Egyptian myths pretty consistently, but the Egyptians, quite honestly, didn't really have a creation myth. But the Babylonians had a creation myth where mankind was basically made because the gods, the bad gods, the gods who had lost the war against the great gods, they were tired of working the earth. They thought it was really unfair that they as gods had to work the earth. And so one of the gods said, all right, I'll make you some servants. And so mankind is made as basically a slave class to let the gods have the day off, essentially. But here in Genesis, it's such a profoundly different experience and act. God does not make man to be some sort of beast of burden, but rather to be the very image of God on earth. Let's read here. Starting in verse 26, Then God said, Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the heavens, and over the livestock, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them. Now I'm going to pause right there. It's not quite the end of chapter 1, but we don't have a ton of time, and I do want to make one more important point. Notice how the focus here in chapter 1 is God made them. In most of the ancient myths, man was the one who got the premium position. That is the male. The male got the premium position. When the male was there, he was man. And then the woman usually was a lesser version, so to speak. And even later on, unfortunately, the Jewish culture kind of adopted this at certain points throughout Israel's history. You would see later on, even in Jesus' day, there was this idea that if a woman wanted to be saved, she had to be married because she was not quite up to the level of the man. But here in Genesis 1, you see them not just put together, but both called the image of God. Not one of them, not man only, and then the woman comes after. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them. It's both of them. Both of them are made in the image of God to be his representative on the earth. Let's continue here. Verse 28, and God blessed them, and God said to them, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over every living thing that moves on the earth. And God said, behold, I have given you every plant yielding seed that is on the face of all the earth, and every tree with seed in its fruit, you shall have them for food. And to every beast of the earth, and to every bird of the heavens, and to everything that creeps on the earth, everything that has the breath of life, I have given every green plant for food. And it was so. And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the sixth day. There's certainly so much more we could get into in this section of Scripture, so many finer points we could delve into. But one thing that I want us to dwell on, our takeaway, if you will, from this small section of Scripture is, are we really acting as if we are created specifically for a special purpose by God? You know, so many people in the world today, we just kind of exist. We're just here. We're just parts of the natural machine, people going about their daily life. You go to work, you come home, you rest. You go to work, you come home, you rest. But mankind was made for so much more than that. Mankind was made to bear the very image of God on earth. And yes, mankind was also made to dominate the earth. But notice also that position is so royal, so excellent for a man, for that position to be placed on him so at odds with the rest of the creation myths that were abounding in the day. He was not made to be a servant, but rather as ruler. Or a better way to put it would probably be steward. Someone who was supposed to care for the earth, but in the position of power, not of servitude. Do we appreciate that position in our own lives? Do we act as if we are the image of God on the earth? Or do we kind of see ourselves as the world has told everyone they should be? You're not special. You're just part of the machine. You're just supposed to be here and exist like everyone else. Don't consider yourself more important than anything else in this planet. You should put yourself behind everything else out there. You should take the earth and put it above you. You should take the desires of the corporation, put it above you. But do you understand your position on the earth? You are made in the very image of God, made to be his representative in the physical world. That is such a special position. It's one we should honor in the way we act, in the way we take care of things. It should call us to a better stewardship of the things we have been given. It should call us to act differently than the wanton destruction that people tend to do in their daily life. It should cause us to think twice before we do even simple things like litter or, not properly take care of our trash. Things that might seem so unimportant in any other circumstance. But when we consider we are the image of God, given the task of caring for this earth as stewards over it, it should cause us to pause and think of our position and what we do with what we have been given. We are called to not just take care of the earth, but also be lights in the world. Lights in the same vein as Jesus was while he was here. As Christians, we are called to be the next step up from that original Adam, to show the world the better way. We've had that image of God now implanted firmly within us, born out in its fullness. Do we really respect that? Do we appreciate what that means for us? Or are we just living like everyone else? Let's take a moment this week to dwell on that and consider whether we need to make changes in our own life, in the way we act with even small things, such as with our job or how we interact with other people. Are we really properly representing the royal title that we have been given? That's all for today. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.